This review is really a story of two games. One game is this awesome action platformer, a game that's inspired by the past, but never bogged down by it. A game that packs a challenge, but plays so well that it's rarely frustrating. This is the story of a great game. It's also the story of a surprisingly generic game. A game that seems to promise style, but never seems to deliver. A game that's kind of boring stylistically, and honestly has no idea. Here's the M. Night Shyamalan twist. They're both Blood of the Werewolf for the Xbox 360! So this is a game I had really high expectations for. It's from Midnight City, which is just an awesome independent publisher. It's billed as this retro-inspired platformer with a modern edge, like Castlevania meets Super Meat Boy. Come on, how can you not expect a game like that to be awesome? And that's half the story, right? Because this actually is an awesome platformer. Like, the gameplay itself plays as great as you'd expect. It's also a game that gets a little confusing with its style. And as someone with a particular interest in that style, I have to say that's where this otherwise great game disappoints. So you play as Selena. She's a werewolf. In fact, she's one of the last werewolves. They've been hunted and killed and very nearly eradicated. And actually, her own child's been taken away from her. And that's the premise. Pissed off werewolf lady goes ballistic and tries to rescue her baby. Which would be fine, but I don't know. I kind of expected classic horror. You know, like I was expecting Universal. I got Underworld. So yeah, about that style. It's definitely not the retro, fun, old-school horror you might be expecting. That is, if you've read anything about this game. Lots of talk of classic horror influences, but it's really not that classic. A little too serious, a little too modern, a little too generic, to be honest. Like, aesthetically, it just looks like another 2.5D platformer. So I mean, it's not just that I was expecting more of a Karloff-inspired take on horror, it's also that what is here just isn't that special. The game's style is kind of flat and unremarkable. Fortunately, the other half of the story is much better, which is to say, this is an awesome platformer. And it really does combine that retro style, again, Castlevania is the most obvious reference here, with that modern thing where people like to make platformers really, really ridiculously hard. Like it's funny or something. Sorry, is this funny to you? Like this is funny? But you know, what surprised me is that it's not as hard as it looks. Like, this is definitely a hard platformer, but it's not as ridiculous as some of its peers, which I like. It's actually a little more accessible in that way, and a lot less frustrating. I mean, look, make no mistake, it takes platforming skill to do this, but, like, I didn't get stuck in this game, and I usually get stuck in these games. And another nice surprise is the addition of the werewolf sections. So there are parts of the levels where you actually become a wolf, Twilight Princess style. And that really helps break things up, which is something this game sorely needs at times. Now, of course, it doesn't completely do the trick. I mean, even with a few different modes, after a while, it all gets very samey. Everything kind of bleeds together, which has as much to do with the presentation as anything else. I mean, the graphics, the music, but the gameplay plays a part in that too. The game turns into just collect tokens, shoot enemies. Oh, now I'm Michael J. Fox, and we're playing the Dragons in the playoffs or something. So it just gets kind of formulaic, you know. And not only that, but the wolf parts aren't as much fun as the regular parts. Like, something about the way it controls just feels floaty, and the whole concept feels kind of tacked on at times. You know, I really hope it doesn't seem like I dislike this game, because I don't. I genuinely enjoyed my time with it. But I also expected to do more than just enjoy it. You know, I expected this to be great. I got like half great. There's nothing wrong with that. This is an awesome game to check out if you're a hardcore platformer fan. I just thought it would offer something more than just hardcore platforming. Crossbows are cool though. It's Blood of the Werewolf for the Xbox 360.